But most recently from China and now based in Victoria. So I'm going to be talking to him about his career, about what's going on now, what's the state of things, what's the Internet of Things, and what's it like here versus China, and how he can work with you in the future to commercialize your technology, your inventions from here in the Chinese market, the other way around, and everywhere in between, being very globally oriented thinkers. So Jordan, come on here and join me and have a chair. So you're mic'd up. Is that switched on? Carnal, have you hooked up before the break? Did you have it on when you were in the restroom? It's always the ace move. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, perfect. Thanks. Awesome. So what we're planning to do here is talk for about a half an hour. I got to know him a little bit, and the sort of the teaser that I got out of that conversation is really leading me to believe it's going to be a lot of fun. What I want to do is start out by asking him sort of what he's up to now, and then we're going to dig into, well, how did that come to be, right? So can you describe your business right now and where you're located and what you're doing? Yeah.
Hey, first, please let me take the opportunity to apologize for my voice. Great timing, I lost my voice this morning. I'll try to be clear, and also take the opportunity to thank very much for Stephen Davis and BDC team for inviting me today. So now to answer your question, I'm not a politician. I define myself as a cross-border transaction guy. I do it mostly as a banker. I run my own investment banking firm, headquartered in China, 6 offices around China, Israel, and now Victoria. I also do so as an entrepreneur. I have my own ventures. I have a farm in China, and now a new venture in agriculture here in Canada. We just announced also the establishment of incubator for medical IT from Israel to China. And from time to time, I do so also as an investor. So I would say I have a wide view of and
So clearly that's not a Chinese accent.
yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that.
Interestingly, many people here ask me if I'm French. So I understood in Canada, if you don't speak perfect English, everyone thinks you're French.
Especially in a Western province. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm Israeli by origin. I'm Israeli by origin. Probably not. Should I do something? See what the foreign accent can do. Here we go. Is it better now? No? Yes?
Yeah,
I'm
good. Very clear.
So yeah, I was born in Israel, raised in Israel. I spent 12 years of my life in the Israeli Air Force as a jet pilot, and then I decided.
You can't make this stuff up. Does he look like he spent 12 years of his life doing anything that required years of training? It's awesome.
Well, I decided that better to move from the cockpit to the business. And I left the army, and I moved to the Silicon Valley. I was an Israeli startup. Great timing, it was 2000. After the bubble burst, I went back to Israel and I asked myself, where's the next bubble? And I said, China is the place, so better to write it early than late. Of course. And I moved to China. So I spent 14 years of my life in Shanghai. About a year ago, I moved to Victoria.
So you guys catch that? After the 12-year life of being a fighter pilot in Israel, then there was another 14-year life in China. How can this be? Right? So he moves to China, and shortly thereafter attends a really interesting international MBA program. Can you talk to us a little bit about what brought you to that decision, and then what you got out of it, and whether you feel like that was the right move? Because a lot of entrepreneurs think about further education, and then they're kind of concerned maybe the ROI isn't there.
Well, I think from after marrying my wife, it's probably one of the best decisions I made. To move to China. And to
Is she listening? Is she recording this?
He's always a good friend of my wife, even if she's not listening.
Okay,
Right?
very good.
So, yes, I'm an electronic engineer by education, which I did during my serving as a jet pilot. And I decided I wanted to do business. So I decided to do an MBA. I was thinking, like most of the Israelis, to go to do my MBA in the US, and to be number, I don't know, 200,000 something. then at that time I was learning a little bit Chinese philosophy, just for my curiosity. And I had a friend that worked with multinational in China, and I said I have to go there. So I just went there to visit, and I fall in love with the place. And I tried to follow my heart. So I moved to China. I found this China International Business School, which is the local Harvard, with the Financial Times, and I was proud to be the first Israeli doing the MBA there, and we were only 4 foreigners with 700 top Chinese executives.
It sounds like sort of an entrepreneurial MBA in itself, right? Because it does, you mentioned Harvard, but it does actually source different experts from different top schools around the world.
Yes, it's a very interesting school. It has, it's a joint venture between the European community and the Shanghai government. So you have Cambridge taking the management, Wharton on the marketing, Chicago the finance, and so on. So you meet professors from all around. At that time, 2002, many professors want to come to China. Later on, they can charge wonderful consultancy fees. So we're happy to come.
So did this really catalyze this, what you describe now as being a transborder, transactional expert, right? Because you got two very different regions that you're sort of smashing together, but you didn't stop there, right? So it's not like you're the guy that does business between China and Israel in a sort of a binary or a bilateral way, right? You have many more facets. So talk to us about how that happened. Did it emerge as a function of this MBA?
This MBA was fascinating for me on two levels. First, I learned a lot. I know it's not common to say go to MBA to learn something. It's more for networking, but I learned a lot. Because all the cases, etc., were about China. And also I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Chinese executives. It was a long weekend every month that we were living together and doing the homework together, and I found myself so many times don't understand and have to open my mind and things will be done in a different way that I got used to. And that was fascinating for me. I thought after this experience, about 250,000 people are spending time in the air at every given moment. And all of us have about, products from 5 continents in our house. So we know to travel, we know to trade, but still, if you look at cross-border transaction, the most important single factor is the cultural gap or the trust gap. I find it fascinating, and I dedicated my career both as a banker and as an entrepreneur on doing cross-culture or cross-border transactions.
You'd be dead if you did all the drinking that I think you had to do in order to get that started, right?
This is very much true, and as many other people moving to Victoria, I'm alcohol-free now.
Right, well, because I lived in China. I was on the faculty at a university south of Shanghai, south of Hangzhou, and I was at the University of Nottingham in 2014, 2015, and I'm sure many of you in the audience have had an experience doing business in China, right? And it does seem like it's a drinking contest, right? And I don't see how you could have survived 14 years of that. But anyway, it's just a fun comment.
This is true. So now I have 25 people in China in 6 different offices. So I have a drinking fellow coming with me to all my dinner.
Oh, excellent, a proxy.
I don't drink, but they can.
That's amazing. It's a sign to drink these things. Very
But
good.
only one can do it in a given meeting. So if you come with me to China, I'm taking the opportunity to say I cannot drink today, right? So.
Ah, okay. I didn't know there was that sort of. Can I get a mulligan on this? And so, what I want to ask is, what was your first hit, your first win, when you knew that you had made the right decision? Right? You come across the world, you invest all this time and money getting an education. How did you know it was working and it was worth it?
Well, I have to admit that it was not with such a vision. It's one thing led to another, and the business grew. I started my first deal by an Israeli company contacted me, said, we heard you're in China, maybe you can help us to close a deal. I did so another company called me, and I did again. I had to recruit someone to help me, and so on and so forth. And I was very fortunate and very lucky to be one of the only foreigners to lead the Chinese state-owned enterprise into multi-billion-dollar cross-border transaction. I helped Shanghai Bright Food to acquire the largest Israeli food company named Nuva, which was a 3-year journey, very complicated deal, which I initiated and led the Chinese side, which is quite uncommon. So I feel fortunate.
This is really cool, right? So your short answer there had a whole bunch of stuff intertwined, and I want to unpack some of it, right? So not only is food important now, right here in this culture, in a lifestyle, health, and sustainability market that is more evolving to be more of a mainstream thing. it's not just to shame me, right? I mean, because we talk about how we're supposed to be treating our bodies like a temple, and then you've got all these freaking cookies in the hallway. I just had a giant cookie, right? So it's not only doing that just to shame me, right? But this is a big trend in North America. But talk to us about that in China, right? So you just described a deal you did where you were working with Chinese on a food deal, on a food transaction.
Yes, this is true. I think Canada is fortunate that we have the ability, that we have the ability to focus on well-being. But for China, it's a much early stage. They are focusing on food level, on survival. China has not enough land, not enough rain, not enough other resources, and it's not food sufficient. And they have to import most of the food, surprisingly, from North America, which is a strategic issue for China. So yes, I was involved a lot with bringing new technologies in agriculture and other. And also, as I mentioned, I had my own venture. I decided to take position, not only to be advisor, and we established our own farm. We grow vegetable in Kunming, Yunnan, as a joint venture with the Yunnan provincial government. I was fortunate to be the vice chairman. The chairman was a political guy, and we established an Israeli-based technology farm in China. I didn't mention I'm from a farm family. My father was hoping me to be either a general or a farmer, so I did a little bit of both, right? But none of them.
Very good. Now, you mentioned a few things that when you were describing China, and really what is sort of a looming crisis, right? There's so many people, and you were describing the agricultural conditions, and then you said, so I started a farm, and I'm thinking, well, you can't solve the rain problem, you can't solve or can you? Did you just figure it out with some Israeli technology?
Unfortunately not. I don't know how to do more rain, but it's about efficiency. China is suffering from low agricultural efficiency. That is a combination of first the amount of farmers. After a huge effort of about the last 10 years, China reduced the amount of farmers to about 500 million. And if you have so many farmers, that means each one of them has very small land. And if you have small land, you are not efficient. You cannot grow with high technology and etc. So there is a tremendous effort going on in China to improve efficiency, and the government. First, if I have to give you one advice on doing business in China, is listen to what the government is saying. I'm from a country where you don't want the government to be involved. But in China, if you want to do business, you have to listen carefully to what the government is saying. And the government is talking water, agriculture, energy, efficiency. These are the things that China cares about. So what we were able to bring is Israeli technology that can do much more with a given land and water. As you know, Israel also has not enough water, not enough land. So we know something about doing efficient agriculture.
Often I think, looking at entrepreneurship from a scholarly perspective, that scarcity really drives so much innovation. So it's interesting that you would have to go to, what essentially looks like Mars to me, right? And that would be a great place to learn about agriculture, right? That Matt Damon movie notwithstanding. That body double was so totally not him, by the way. I can't believe they did that, right? So I want to expand on something, the role of the state in China. We all know this, it's what we talk about when we're describing, maybe in an MBA course or in some sort of a kind of a crash course on intercultural communications, and then, you're taught how to hold your business card with two hands and present it in this fashion. All these sort of cultural differences that are easy to kind of acclimate yourself to. But the role of the state isn't, right? For those of us who are used to minimizing government, as you say, Jordan, it's really hard to imagine the power that is wielded. And so to give you a couple of examples and see if you can have a couple of examples to add to this. I lived in a city with a population greater than the country of New Zealand. And no one has ever heard of this city except people who've lived nearby. Right? So I lived in Ningbo. I mean, they had an IKEA. Right? They're on the map, right? This is a big place. And they had 16 incubators. This was 2 years ago. And they have 32 in Shanghai. There's 48 freaking incubators, and they all have millions and millions of dollars. And they're funded by the federal government and the local government, right? Very few of them, in my experience, were funded by private equity, venture capital, right? There are some, sure, there are venture capitalists and private equity guys in China, but a lot of it is driven by the state, which is really interesting. And I want to see if you have some other examples that can sort of maybe paint a picture as to the role of the state in catalyzing entrepreneurship.
Well, if you look at the history of China, till about 30 years, till Deng